I think everybody is right to be scared about software. Most shops we talk to have PTSD from the ERP implementation they did. That really left a bad taste in a lot of this industry's mouth. We took a software as a service approach for a reason. Service requires us providing a service to you. It also allows you to say, I'm done. Service is over. A third of our business is customer success, support, and implementation. The hardest part of any software is change management. But the best advice I can give you is software will do 80% of what you want it to do, and 20% you will hate, because software is never going to be perfect. The real key to winning with software is using the 80%. So few people take full advantage of the software solution because they don't fully invest in the time to implement.
Welcome to Making Sparks, the podcast where we ignite your passion for metal fabrication and fuel your business success. Join industry leaders and dive deep into the world of metalworking. From business insights to tips of the trade, Making Sparks is your forge of knowledge. During each episode, discover success stories, innovative solutions, and expert interviews that light the path to business growth. Subscribe today and grow and improve your company, and let's make sparks fly together.
Welcome back to Making Sparks. I'm your host, Casey Velker, sitting here virtually with my co-host, Matthew Nix. Again, this is the third time trying to do this intro, and we've got a special guest here, Jason from Paperless Parts, and we'll let Jason kind of tell us what Paperless Part does, and we'll see how the conversation goes, because you know us, we don't really prepare at all for these things. But Matthew, you want to introduce Jason a little bit?
Just met Jason virtually here a few minutes before we got on, but I've been familiar with Paperless Parts for quite a while now. So I'm very interested to learn more, but not only about paperless parts, just this concept of, automating quoting and workflow. I'm sure we're going to get into AI today. So I think there will be a lot of interesting topics that we're going to dive into today. So Jason, why don't you jump in here and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, Casey, Matt, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Jason Ray. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO at Paperless Parts. Paperless Parts is a quoting and estimating solution for job shops, contract manufacturers. We focus specifically on sheet metal fabrication, CNC machining. We do some work in additive manufacturing. And it's one of the nice things about Paperless Parts is it's a highly customizable platform because let's face it, you guys know this industry as well as I do. This is still very much a human game. I think a lot of people try to develop software solutions and they say, yep, you're going to replace your humans with software. That's not what we do here. We do automation with a human touch. It's one of the primary reasons we don't do instant quoting, because I think quoting is one of the most important things you can do in your business. You quote the wrong work, you got the wrong mix going through your shop, you're going to be in trouble. You quote the right work at the wrong price, you're going to be in trouble. There's a lot of ways to blow your business in the front office. And we try to put up the right guardrails so that you can move quickly through the process, but you can also move through that process with consistency. A lot of folks come to us and they say, we want to make this more accurate. And I always say, let's focus on consistency and then let's dial in the accuracy. If something's very consistent, it's a heck of a lot easier to get to accurate. Last thing I'll leave you with is, what is the goal of quoting? I always ask people that question, and they always come back and they say, well, hey, goal of quoting is to win the work. And I say, well, that's great. Just lower your prices. You'll win every quote you send. But that's really not the goal, right? The goal of quoting is to spend the least amount of time and energy possible to return a quote at a price, not a cost, but a price the customer is willing to pay that generates adequate margin for your business. And I think I'm a big fan of intentionality. It's really important to define it that way. So Paperless Parts helps our customers do that.
This episode of Making Sparks is brought to you by Paperless Parts. Are you tired of the complexity that comes with quoting and manufacturing? Paperless Parts is here to help. As the #1 quoting and collaboration software for manufacturers, Paperless Parts simplifies every step of your quoting process in a single, centralized environment. With patented technology, their automated costing and pricing logic is tailored specifically to your shop, making it easier and faster to generate consistent quotes across your entire estimating team. Plus, Paperless Parts meets the rigorous standards of FedRAMP and CMMC, giving you confidence that your data is secure. By streamlining your workflow, Paperless Parts saves you time, boosts profitability, and helps you deliver an unbeatable customer experience. Ready to level up your shop's quoting process? Visit paperlessparts.com to learn more. Paperless Parts, quoting made simple, profitable, and powerful.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, I like to joke all the time with friends and even colleagues. I say, look, we're in a business where we don't actually know how much it's going to cost to produce the part until we're done. I said, that's a hell of a way to make a living like that. You're guessing at what it's actually going to cost to produce the part. And of course you want it to be the most educated guess possible. And I totally agree with you on focusing on consistency before you focus on accuracy. And that's something we've been really intentional about here within Nick's Industrial, and looking at our estimates to actual and really trying to understand how consistent are we, and then what are the areas that we can improve upon. So, and you're so right, Jason, that you can work so efficiently on the shop floor and you can have guys just busting their butts on the shop floor, but you can totally make or break the business in the front office on quoting.
Yeah, we always say, and I think this is like anything else, 80-20, but every job starts with a quote. I think in one way, shape, or form, every job starts with a quote. So really, really important to get that first piece of it right.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering what your background was before this.
Yeah, I spent 7 years in the United States Navy as a supply and logistics officer. So my first duty was on a minesweeper. The minesweepers are 30, at the time I was there, they were 30-year-old wooden ships in Bahrain, in Persian Gulf. Those ships were set to be decommissioned when I got there. And very quickly, the Navy decided that they actually needed the ship and they needed the mission. So I had to really do my job and go out and figure out how I brought that ship back up to full operational capacity. And a lot of that involved buying parts that we had not purchased or had been sitting on back order, or the contracts had gone cold on. And I think that was the first time in my life that I realized how difficult it is to work with the U.S. industrial base. I was calling machine shops, I was calling fabricators who had produced things for the Navy before, but had no record of it. Whether they didn't have the part number that I had because I had a national stock number and they had an OEM part number and they had no cross-reference for that, or if they didn't remember the job because they produced it 7 years ago and they couldn't find the drawings for it. No matter what, it just was a constant smack in the face of how difficult it was to do business. And I was forward deployed. I'm like, this should be easy. This is crazy. When I got back, I went to Naval Sea Systems Command, where I was negotiating standard missile contracts with Raytheon. And I got to see what the new side of procurement looked like. And a little bit to my surprise, it was equally as difficult. It took us over a year to put a contract in place. And a missile had thousands of suppliers associated with it. We needed cost and pricing data from all of them. And that process was very antiquated, Excel spreadsheets, very difficult, very inconsistent. And it just kept kind of highlighting for me how brittle this process was and how much this process lacked software. And when I say this process, I mean the estimating RFQ collaboration process. So I ended up working in the Pentagon for a couple of years, really learning about advanced manufacturing technology. I fell in love with it. I drank a little bit of the Kool-Aid on additive manufacturing, and then I had to come back to reality and realize that we're actually not going to 3D print the vast majority of things that we want. And when I left the Pentagon, I decided I wanted to go out and buy a machine shop. I was like, it'd be awesome. I'll do, SpaceX meets, defense contractor and really be able to solve some of the problems that I saw when I was in active duty. And when I went out and visited these shops, the main thing I walked away with is the capabilities exist and the capacity exists. The lack of technology in the front office makes the capability and capacity very inaccessible to buyers. Makes the businesses very hard to work with, makes it really challenging if I'm trying to match my parts to your technology and I don't really know manufacturing well. And what I realized is I was never going to be able to take over for a shop owner. I haven't run machines. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I'm a business guy. My MBA wasn't going to get me through the risk of taking over quoting from an owner in an 8 million in revenue business. I had a feeling I would knock the thing over in a year. I try to be very candid about what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And I had a feeling that was not going to go well. So we gave our investors back the money. And one of the gentlemen who had invested in that business was Jay Jacobs. And he is my co-founder at Paperless Parts. He said, hey, let's go build a software company instead. He said, I think you really uncovered a need in the industry, and we can make American manufacturers more resilient. We can make it a stronger industrial base, and we can really support the kind of country we want to live in if we build software that is secure, it's cloud-based, it's set up to support the defense industry, and really tailored to the type of work that our customers are doing. So not we sell to machine shops, but we also sell to, bakeries and cafes. We don't do that. It's not horizontal software. It's vertical. We're focused on one specific customer profile.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's a great story. Thanks for your service too, by the way. I could probably talk to you all day about the things you saw and learned in your time in the Navy. That's really cool. We have a couple of customers. We are, second and third tier, but we work for one of the companies that builds the nuclear reactors that go in the carriers and the subs. And then we also work for another company where we've got to build part of the control deck on the new Columbia class subs. So we've had some experience, and I can relate to what you're saying about how difficult and antiquated the process can be sometimes, both directions really. But yeah, there's so much opportunity to improve for sure. That's a good story to bring us up to kind of where Paperless Parts started, but I'm sure, it wasn't all just roses and rainbows right out of the gate. Tell us about some of the obstacles you had to overcome early on to get this thing off the ground.
I used to be much better looking. Let's just say that. It's the last 8 years have been character building, to say the very least. We built the wrong product. We initially thought a marketplace would be the right approach to the industry, set up some middleware, make it easier for shops to sit on one side and buyers to come in and find those shops. I think the thing we realized, and I think I always took this for granted in the early days, estimating is really, really hard. It is really, really difficult. I always get a good chuckle when people talk about instant quoting, because it's incredibly difficult, and one decimal point can change everything about the cost of a job. And not realizing that or catching it or understanding it puts you in a really difficult place. So we ran for about a year at the wrong solution. We built a lot of the right core technology. Our technology is designed to do three things: extract information. So that's pulling information out of CAD models and PDF drawings. And then it's contextualizing that information. So saying, hey, this is a cylinder, that means it's a hole. This is a plane, that's a surface. This is a bend in a sheet metal part. And then it's taking that information and giving our customers an interface to organize all of those variables into automation. And that automation is three tiers, right? It's tell me if this exists. So warn me if you see this. Manufacturability warnings, completely customizable. It's add this process if you see this. So, hey, flat part, I don't need a press brake. If I see bends in the part, I need to add my press brakes. Very simple example. And lastly, it's help me cost it. So based on the cut length of the part, or based on the bend or the bend radius or the length of the bend, here's how many operators I'm going to need. Here's how heavy that part is. Here's how challenging it's going to be to set up. And it's organizing everything we know about those files into those three key areas: warnings, dynamic routing, and pricing. That's what we do. We work with our customers to configure their accounts in that way. And over the last 8 years, we've just gotten a heck of a lot better. It went from a desktop calculator to, like a TI-86, which most people didn't really know how to use. And then now it's a lot more of a computer. It's got workflows. It's got a whole customer experience platform with dynamic digital quoting and custom exports for different quote formats. It has APIs to integrate into all the different ERP systems, all the CRM systems. We've got people building custom dashboards on top of it. We went from obviously 0 customers, but You figure we left 2019 with about 40 customers. Now we've got 800. It's scaled pretty quickly, which comes with a lot of pain as well. But I think we've done enough right along the way, and we tend to. The thing that I hear a lot is we like your software, we love your people. Most software people kind of cringe when they hear that because they're like, crap, I wish our software was the thing that people liked and they're not our people. I kind of think of it the other way around. It's all about culture. This, coming back to what we first said, this is a human game. There's always going to be humans from my perspective. Maybe someday, but I think for the foreseeable future, it's going to be person to person, working together, working through change management, making sure that the risk is being mitigated of adopting something new. That's the hard stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Casey, did you have something you were going to say?
He just said it's all about culture, and I just had to give a thumbs up because a lot of our podcast is about culture. And I think when people think about software companies, they think, oh, they're just here to be transactional. But to hear Jason say that you guys know it's about the people and things like that, just on a side note, is really cool. But you did mention it works well with ERP systems and CRMs. And I like to dumb things down a little bit. And so for like my company is really small. We're working through CRM and a project management software, and I hate when it's complicated, and I want everything to be in one spot. So like we settled on a project management software that can kind of do a CRM thing, so that it can all be in one spot. But I know for your guys' buyers too, or buyers in general, many buyers are looking for like a resilient one-stop shop as a partner. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
I think I'll tell you my experience, and you have to take it with a grain of salt for what it's worth. I think software is really hard to do well. And I think one of the reasons that modern software companies have focused on API integrations is because they recognize that doing every piece of the value stream really well, it's not that possible. And the one-stop shop software, they've either been in business for decades, so they've had the time to invest in getting it right across each piece of the value stream, or they do one thing well and they kind of sacrifice on all other areas.
Yeah, that's been my experience. As well.
Yeah, and so like I understand the need for a one-stop shop or the desire. I think I would opt for a highly documented process map where your team understands the flow through your software solutions and is using the right tool for the right job. Just like you wouldn't use a laser cutter to bend a part. I mean, it's not the right tool for the right job. And I don't know any laser cutters that have a press brake bolted onto the back of it yet. So I think it's very similar in software. I think we can integrate nicely so that it flows through your process well. And we go up and down the stack. If you're a really small shop and you're using Paperless Parts, you can do all of your CRM in our system. You don't need another CRM system. And if you don't have an ERP system yet, you can manage your orders in our orders module. It's largely crap today. It's not a great piece of our software, but it'll get you through to a few $1 million in revenue. And you can integrate into QuickBooks and run your accounting there because that's probably the smartest way to do it. And then as you start to scale up, you're going to go out and you're going to buy an ERP system that's going to run your shop floor. And then we'll manage your front office and we'll integrate into that ERP system. And then as you get bigger and bigger and bigger, you'll probably want to use a Salesforce or you'll use something else to manage your sales team. And you can bolt that onto the front of Paperless Parts. And that it's a lot to manage and it's expensive, but I think picking the right tool for the job sets you up for success.
Interrupting your current Making Sparks episode to bring you your latest sparks of knowledge. With me is Adam Schmidt from the ProFab Alliance.
Hey, Casey, thanks for having me today. And got a question for you.
What's your question?
Do you ever feel like your business has outgrown its current structure, systems, and processes?
We're smaller, but we're growing, so we're getting close to that.
That's a challenge, that many business owners face. What was true yesterday might not be true today. And that's where ProFab Alliance can help you out. So over the past 10 or 20 years, we've developed these systems and processes built upon the successes and lessons learned that we've had. And we kind of packaged them up and we're offering those to other owners. Maybe they can not make those same mistakes or even build upon our successes. So You know, our management systems and toolkits are really the foundation. You can get help through human resources, sales and marketing, accounting and finance, and even operations excellence. And, you know, it's really a well-rounded system that I would encourage you to go to Profab Alliance to learn more about, or, you know, even better yet, sign up today. So get on profaballiance.com.
Yeah, Jason, we actually just embarked on a ERP or maybe MRP. I'm not sure what the right acronym, because we're still trying to decide precisely to your point. So I think our story is probably very relatable to many people. And in 20 years, we've gone from a $400,000 shop to over a $40 million shop in a 15, 20 year period. So you understand kind of what that probably looked like in terms of software. And we now today have a CRM that we really like, that we run, and we're still quoting. In some of our business, we're quoting in Excel. Some of our business, we're quoting in other industry-specific shop floor systems that have some quoting built into it. And that we have two different ones of those through businesses we've acquired. And then we're running QuickBooks on the back end. And so we've got all these clunky systems, that don't talk to each other. And so we're actually looking for a global ERP system, or, to your point, that through our shopping, one of the things I've kind of uncovered is it seems like the people that do it all just do it all okay, or they do one thing really well, and like you said, they sacrifice other things. And so our shop floor management, I think, is our biggest bottleneck and hiccup right now. So my thought is kind of, why don't we find a solution that does that really well and has APIs to the other things? And, you could bring a Paperless Parts alongside that. So you go from CRM to Paperless Parts to shop floor management to QuickBooks. If you can make that data flow from one to the other, you can really have, products that, like you said, the right tool for the right job.
You can probably get away with getting the accounting system inside of the ERP. It'll probably make your life better, like the Epicor Kinetics of the world, the Infor Visuals. We can chat offline on this one. I'm happy to share some thoughts. But as congratulations, 400,000 to 40 million is awesome. That's just awesome. Not very many people make that journey. If you don't have a software engineer that works at your company yet, I cannot stress enough how valuable that will be on your journey to 400 million. I would be willing to bet you the biggest possible steak you can eat. You'll look back in 3 years after making that hire and say, man, that guy was spot on. Find a recent grad out of Northeastern that has a mechanical engineering degree and likes to write code. Will change the game in so many ways. Yeah, we're seeing it in so many shops right now.
Yeah, we've talked amazing about that. And we've got an outside advisory board, and one of our board members, they went and shopped for ERP, and they actually just built their own. And they now have a whole team of people that just manage and update their internal system. And he said it's an absolute game changer for them. And even if you don't go to that extreme, I mean, even if we bought out of the box ERP or MRP, like we've talked about having someone on staff that has that, because we have an IT guy, but I mean, he's working on the business and fix, routine IT stuff. And so we've talked about it, but for us, it's kind of like an out there thing. We think, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be wild to have that? But I mean, I think what you're saying is it's probably more reality than what you realize, and the ROI might be there sooner than we expect.
Yeah, if you're going to buy a race car, you got to have the race car driver to go with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
I think I'd like to race a race car.
Casey, we need to keep you out of a race car. me too. To your defense, me too. What were you going to say, Jason?
I think you guys are probably seeing this on the front lines right now, but I don't think there's ever been a time in U.S. history where so much work is coming back to the country right now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your growth journey, and just the opportunity that's ahead of American manufacturers is awesome. Really, really incredible.
Yeah, the reshoring of products. Well, that and the consolidation in the market too. I mean, you can view that as a good or bad thing, whichever way you want to look at it, but it's coming nonetheless. And so the combination of work coming back to the U.S. and the consolidation, is creating a opportunity and also a big challenge around being able to manage the volume of quotes and work?
We're seeing just in data in our platform, one, RFQ traffic is through the roof to our customers. They are getting more RFQs. The frequency and the size of them is incredible. I mean, we have customers getting requests with 1,000 line items. Supply chain managers just throwing up the flag saying, hey, tell me what you can make. So I think there's something really interesting there that a lot of shops never really focused on before. And it's this idea of triage. One of the things that I'm learning as I watch our customers be very successful, as I get to visit some of the top shops in the country, standardization is really the key to scaling. Like, I see so many shops that they kick work out of the quoting process. Their triage process is so tight, and they focused on reducing the number of variables in their business, because the more variables in the equation, the more risky it is, the more chance things are going to go wrong, the more chance that if you get one of the variables wrong, it's kind of a domino effect. So really standardizing around what you do best and the type of work you want and doubling down on that. I mean, we've all probably been in shops where it's 4 million in revenue and they've got 8 different types of machines. I get it. I understand trying to keep afloat. You're taking whatever work you can get, but now you're sitting there and the complexity of operating that business, just maintaining your equipment is hard. I think as I've been spending more time in the 25 to 150 million in revenue businesses, just seeing the level of standardization and focus is key. So I think that's going to be a big trend that we're talking about and hearing about a lot, is how do you triage thousands of part numbers quickly and understand what's the sweet spot for your business, where it's not so much, and I think there's a lot of pride around being able to make anything. And so I would never want to take away from that, but it's almost like if you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. Figuring out a methodical and more automated way to understand this is a good fit for us, this isn't, and being very discerning there is going to be key for manufacturers who are going to scale efficiently and profitably over the next 4 years. I mean, I expect, just from what I'm reading, somewhere around $500 billion worth of parts coming back to the United States. When you think about the average NPI win rates are in the 25 to 35% range, that means you're going to have $1.5 trillion worth of quotes sent for that. Today, we see about 2.5 to 3 billion a month quoted through paperless. We're not even scratching the surface. $1.5 billion is going to be, I don't know how people are going to keep up with it.
Yeah, well said. When you say triage the quotes or the parts, explain to the audience what you mean by that.
So let's talk about the normal flow that shops go through, right? Most people get an email, and sometimes that comes to a central inbox if you've gotten your shop organized around that, you've trained your customers on it. If not, that email goes to a salesperson, goes to the owner, goes to the estimator, ends up in their inbox. A lot of people work out of their inbox, so it's first in, first out. So if I've got 10 emails, I start working on the first one, and then when I finish that, I go to the next one, and then I go to the next one. And that's right out of the gate. That is an inefficient way to understand what order you should be quoting things in. So many times people tell me, I want to quote faster, and I say, well, let's focus on quoting the right work in the right order, and we'll work on the speed at the same time. The triage, what I mean there is, how do you get enough information at your fingertips as quickly as possible to understand what it is the customer's asking for? A lot of our customers usually will download all the files, and then they'll print everything out, and then they'll lay it out on a conference room table, and they'll look at all the prints, and they'll take a highlighter and they'll put little marks on them if it looks like a good part, or if something's risky, they'll circle it in red and they'll leave it there. And that's their process for understanding, are we going to go invest in quoting this? Some shops don't even do that. Some shops, if it comes in, they're quoting it, and they quote it first in, first out. That's the way their methodology is. I think there's varying degrees of that. Paperless Parts, we really focus on presenting the information to you in a digestible, very visual way where you can review hundreds of parts in minutes and understand How complex are the assemblies I'm looking at? What am I looking at here from a type of part? Is it a machined or is it a milled or turned? Is it going to go into my, from a laser to a press brake? Do I need a tube laser for this type of work? Like just the visual nature of our platform and being able to get organized very quickly. We designed it to support you understanding a 1,000 line item package in minutes. That's what I mean when I say triage. It's figuring out, because there's not enough time in the day. The worst thing that I ever hear from customers when they're evaluating paperless parts is, the reason we're talking to you guys is because we got feedback from our buyers that we're submitting quotes that have already been awarded to another shop. That means you're doing work that there's no chance of winning. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
it's awful.
That's the worst. Yeah, we've had plenty of too many situations where, quotes come in from our sales team. They come into the estimating office and it gets stuck in the pile over here because they've got other hot things going on. And then they finally get around to looking into it, and then only to find out there's some questions they need answered, or, they need more information or this or that. So now we got to go back and get that. And at a minimum, we look ridiculous because we've waited till a day before the bid's due to ask these questions. The customer knows you haven't even looked at it yet. Or to your point, the job's already been awarded and we're too late to the game. And so we've lived
that's
that.
A huge, you nailed it. That's a huge piece of that triage is being able to go back to the buyer and even letting them know where they made a mistake or didn't send you the right files. I mean, a lot of times you're working through a big package on your shared drive. You don't realize they sent you the wrong rev of a print. And that's just, mistakes happen all the time.
So that leads me to another question. You're talking about the wrong rev of a print, and you talked about the system flagging things. I got to believe you guys are utilizing or embracing AI in certain ways. And this AI is a hot topic right now. I know Casey and his team, they've done a really good job of embracing AI, probably a lot better than we have. But
yeah, I'm not even really here. I'm just an avatar, AI avatar.
Yeah. What can you say? What can you tell us about that, Jason?
Well, Matt, you just talked about the type of work that you do, right? You're a Department of Defense supplier. I think first thing I always say about AI for folks is you got to be careful. Have to be very careful about how you use AI in your business. We have a lot of customers that will come to me and they'll say, hey, Jason, this firm came to me and they said they're going to put all my data into this AI model and tell me things about my shop. And then when we dig in, we find out that it's a team of engineers sitting in India going to be working with their data, and they've got controlled unclassified information sitting in there. And so I think the first things first is I think security is paramount. American intellectual property is everybody's responsibility. We've got to make sure that we're maintaining control of that. I like to classify AI in two categories: subjective and objective. So there are tools like ChatGPT and Gemini and all these large language models where you'll write something into that large language model and it will give you a subjective response. And what I mean by subjective is it could be different every time you ask the same question, and it's up to you to validate whether that response is correct. We take a different approach. Because quoting is risky, I like to stay much more on the other side of AI, which is objective. That means that the computer is using AI to do a task that a human would have to do. In most cases, it's moving information from one format to another format. So a great example, we use AI to detect the title block in a print and extract the part number, rev description, material, finish, and pull it all into the proper fields in paperless parts. That is objective because a human can very quickly look at it and validate that what we did was correct. We didn't grab the drawing number instead of the part number. We didn't miss and go pick a random number on the page. We highlight it. You can see where we pulled it to. You just didn't have to do it. So still, automation, human brain providing guidance and oversight. I think that's a nice marriage of the technology. I think AI is going to have a pretty tremendous impact from a few different angles. One is we're using it to analyze PDF drawings. We've invested very, very heavily in making sure that that is scalable. You can take a drawing and you can put it in ChatGPT, and that will cost about $1.50. in server power to read that drawing. And most people don't understand that. And that's not very scalable. We've invested very, very heavily to reduce that cost down to pennies because we've focused on the information that our customers need to understand. And we've built our AI in a way that it understands specifically engineering specifications. So that's a way that we are using AI. We'll also use AI to read the body of an email that gets forwarded into Paperless Parts, to pull all the part numbers and the quantities out of the body of that email, or to pull the contact information out of that email. Again, very objective. We pulled it from this place. We put it in your quote in Paperless Parts to make you faster. That's how we think about it. In broad strokes, I think AI will be used to supplement humans in this industry going forward. It'll be a tool that can be used very effectively. It'll also be a tool that bites a lot of people because they become very reliant on it and the cost structure is not proper, or they become reliant on it and they stop checking and it makes a mistake and it burns them. There's a balance. I do think there's a lot of very interesting workflow generation tools. So one of the reasons that Paperless Parts has not gone into building an ERP system is I think the rigidity of ERP systems makes them very hard to sell to a broad swath of the industry. Because every shop is a little different in how they want to run their business, how they want to work through the steps, their manufacturing execution steps. What I'm seeing from AI is the ability to generate workflow tools that are actually pretty darn powerful. And so we built Paperless Parts in a way that's very API driven. And we've had a handful of our customers build their own ERP systems on our APIs. And that's not going to be for everyone. You have to have the right people and the right mindset to do it. But using AI to write software is a tremendous lever.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool stuff. Well, Casey, we're coming up on the end of our time here. Anything we missed or any questions you got for Jason?
Yeah, the only thing I really want to add is I kind of want to throw a bone to Paperless Parts a little bit. Like if there's customers out there that are a little bit scared, because a lot of people who start embarking on software for things that maybe they weren't always using software for, they're scared that they're not going to be able to understand it or they're not going to have the support. I just like know like again, there's certain software we use that may not actually be the best software for what we're using, but their customer service is so good that they can help us use the software to the best of our abilities. And I know you keep saying like people and culture. Is that kind of what Paperless Part does? Like if someone's just a little bit scared of the software?
I think everybody is right to be scared about software. No question about it. Most shops we talk to have PTSD from the ERP implementation they did, right? They bought a system, all cash, laid out $250,000, spent 8 months trying to implement it. Then when they ran out of hours, went back to the ERP and said, well, we're only using about 15% of this. We need more support. And they tried to charge you $1,500 a day to help you. And that really left a bad taste in a lot of this industry's mouth. We took a very different approach. We took a software as a service approach for a reason. Service requires us providing a service to you. It also allows you to say, I'm done. Service is over. A third of our business is customer success, support, and implementation. And that's unique for a company like ours. You tend to have engineering be the biggest piece and then sales, and then it's really small, but we're a third, and a third. So we have about 44 people on our customer success, support, and implementation team. A lot of people try to take a pennies approach to this. So they're like, oh, I don't want to spend a couple $1,000s for, an on-site, or I don't want to spend money on this. The hardest part of any software is change management. But the best advice I can give you is software will do 80% of what you want it to do, and 20% you will hate, because software is never going to be perfect. The real key to winning with software is using the 80%. So few people take full advantage of the software solution because they don't fully invest in the time to implement, and they don't really drive the adoption and utilization. We partner very closely with our customers to train, to drive utilization. You can get someone at Paperless Parts. I think our response time and support is 20 minutes right now. If you need help with something, our team is always here to do it. And I think our customers would attest to that. And I can guarantee one thing, it's never going to be perfect. Software, it's just not. It's very, very challenging. But I look at all of our customers as partners. We want to be a good partner to you. We want to be critical to you in scaling your business. That partnership starts with the relationship. And that's one of the core values we have here at Paperless Parts. It's we're a team. And the underlying foundation of that is that relationships matter. Human to human, we should know your name. You should know our names. All of our customers have my email address. It keeps us all working for the same goal.
Well, yeah, we're wrapping up here on the time. Jason, we appreciate you coming on with us and chatting about this, about everything that you chatted about, and even the things that you said you're going to talk offline with Matthew. I think you even hinted at some of that on here.
I really enjoyed the conversation.
How can people follow along with you, Jason, personally, and obviously follow along with what Paperless Parts is doing?
Yeah, paperlessparts.com is our website. So there is a vast amount of knowledge there, and we publish to YouTube. We do lunch and learns. We have a blog called In the Shop, where both our customers and our team are writing content to share with the industry. For me personally, I'd say it's probably best just to follow us on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone. You can email me, jason@paperlessparts.com. I'm happy to hop on, chat about it. If you're trying to solve a problem, I would be willing to bet I don't necessarily know the answer to every problem or every question, but I'd be willing to bet one of our customers does. And that's one of the nice things about staying close to our customers is we always have someone who's solved a problem someone else is trying to solve.
Jason, I think you mentioned before we got on the podcast that you're in Boston. Is that correct?
I am.
Yeah. So we, my wife and I visited Boston about a year ago. Just absolutely loved it. Can't wait to come back. I'm a history buff, and I love love the ambiance of the city and the history. And it felt like such a small, big city. It's just really cool. So I just wanted to share that with you. We had a great experience when we were in Boston. I can't wait to come back.
I'll give you the opportunity. The end of April is Power 2025. It's our user conference. It'll be the third year we're hosting it in Boston. Probably have about 250 of the top shops in the country in a room together, figuring out how to rise the tide for all the boats. So I'd love to have you guys there as my guests, and maybe we can hop on and do a follow-up there.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. Well, Jason, do you know how we do the sign off here? So if we're not making sparks,
we're not making money.